Hello and welcome to another episode of Addicted to Business. Today it is my huge honour to welcome a dear friend of mine and a young entrepreneur, Milly Denton. Hello, Mill.
Hello.
How are you?
Yes, very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Milly has set up a footwear brand called Dentons, and we're going to hear more about that on the show. Now, no Addicted to Business show would ever be complete without my dear friend, co-host, and wannabe Gokwan impersonator, Mr.
I was going to come out. He stung me there.
Nailed it, mate. Nailed it. How are you, all right?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me on, Nate. I'll get you back next time, don't worry.
Good to see you, mate. So, Mill, let's dive in. Stokely and I have put together a series of questions, and we just want to hear more, really, about Denton's footwear. So, before we dive in, just give us a little bit of an update about what you've been up to from leaving school up until the present day.
Okay, so when I left school, went traveling for a year. I worked out in China for a month. So my dad runs a footwear manufacturing company. We make for ourselves, and he makes for a lot of other key brands within the safety footwear market.
Yeah.
So I went out, I didn't know I wanted to go into footwear, but I just did a bit of experience, kind of see what was going on, see what it was like, see if I liked it. And then I went to uni for 10 days. Didn't like it.
That's sensational.
Love that.
I know.
Congratulations.
It's a really good record, actually. My cousin's, she went to uni for 14 days, so I actually beat her. So
Oh, very good.
there you go.
And if you don't mind me asking, why just 10 days? I mean, as you know, I didn't go, and I'm a huge advocate for people that don't go. But for you, why did you only last 10 days?
I think I was doing geography, and my course changed from human geography to physical geography.
Yeah.
And I was I had 6 hours of lectures a week, which is nothing.
Yeah.
And one
That's
of
a
them
lot
was
for uni.
a 2-hour lecture on rain in Leicestershire. So I just didn't really, nothing really clicked for me. I didn't know what it was I didn't know what my outcome would be if I went through with the 3 years.
Yeah.
And so I was unhappy. So I just spoke to my parents and said, look, I'm really not happy. I don't really see there being an end goal here. And that's when Dad suggested that I should come out and work on a trial basis for his sister company, Age Tech, which I now head up.
Okay.
So so I deal with all the outside brands. They're not Dad's individual brands, but outside companies come to me. They'll come with their designs, or maybe they've got their own designs, and I put it all into production and bring it all back for them with their branding on it.
Amazing. And then obviously you've been doing that, and kind of on the side have now started your own brand, Dentons,
Yes.
which we're going to talk about more today, which is incredibly exciting. So Stokely, over to you, sir.
So I want to know the nitty gritty, really. A lot of people just say, oh yeah, I just started my business and, that just happened from there. But how did you actually start your business? Like, where did the idea come from? What was the reason behind it? What was the problem that you wanted to solve for Denton Footwear?
So quite a lot of my friends are boys, and they're always complaining about getting really nice quality footwear at like nice prices. I mean, some of the boys don't have like £300 to spend on a pair of Chelsea boots.
Mm.
Like, you've obviously got in Northampton, where I live, there's quite a hub of shoes. So you've got your Churches, your Lokes, Chinis, and they're all fantastic, but their prices are all obviously to the standards which they're selling. So I really wanted to come in and be different and really emphasize the quality. Like, the quality of the product is all about the quality for Dentons, and it's just at that like lower price bracket that those people can afford.
Mm. Mm.
It took a while. I think I've been thinking about it for about 2 years before I finally decided I wanted to go with it. You've got to find the right partners, the right way to get it out there.
Mm.
What made you take the leap, man? What was that little kick up the bum to say, okay, I'm going to now go and do it?
I think in my head, because obviously my dad gave me my first job, everyone's like, Daddy's given Milly a business to run. And actually, like, I'm there because I do an all right job, but it's quite nice to do something on my own so that people don't think that I'm just sitting there all day just waiting for Dad to like give me something to do.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like showing people that it's not just about having a job working for my dad. Like, I actually love what I do.
Good. So there's a personal mission as well as a business mission. Business mission is to provide great quality footwear at affordable prices. I love how politically correct you were when talking about those other brands. But then also, looking personally, you're keen to show people that it's not just your dad that can get you there, and you're absolutely more than capable of delivering your own brand within the footwear space.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that is awesome. I love it. So talk to me about suppliers, because for anyone listening to this, I'm sure they're going to be inspired by your story, but a lot of people might struggle when it comes to sourcing product. Now, I'm keen to understand from you, how did you go about creating and sourcing your product line?
So first of all, you got to find your suppliers, and where's best to go? Second best to Northampton, obviously, is Italy. And in Italy, every year they have 2 big shoe shows. So I decided to go to the one in Milan, and I can't remember off the top of my head what it's called.
Yeah.
But there's about 5 or 6 halls of all the stores are exactly the same. All the shoes are the same. You've just got to walk around and swindle out who are the best prices, who are the best people to work with. So I found a little booth which was actually hidden, and I nearly missed it. And they make for some other key brands as well. So I knew they had the quality. But actually the woman who I got introduced to, who I now work really closely alongside to create the Dentons range, she was just so helpful and informative. She could see what I wanted to do, and she immediately wanted me to introduce me to her bosses. So it's a family run factory as well in Italy.
Okay.
So they've been dating back about 40 or 50 years, I think, as a family run factory out there. Okay. And it's just, that's we're a family run business and they're a family run business, and it all just seemed perfect. Everything was just perfect, and they're definitely the right customer to go with. Sure. So the next thing after that was sort of going out, visiting the factory, making sure it's everything they said it was going to be.
Yeah.
I went out with some ideas of what I wanted. I've been down to London, done the windows, got the styles, and then you take them and you kind of go and sit in their showroom, and it's just full of shoes. You've never seen so many shoes. Every style, every color. They do a lot for the Kenyan market, so the colors were just insane.
Yeah.
And you start working, getting leather samples out, deciding what colors you want with which outsoles, and yeah, it's a big process to go through. It took about 2 or 3 days to kind of get the collection together.
Wow, so there's so much more to it than just choosing the color and choosing the sole and cracking on.
Yeah, I mean, even from that, I think I ordered about 30 samples, and then when they get here, the colors maybe don't look right, or the outsole doesn't look right for the product. So you end up getting rid of over probably half of what you bring back.
Yeah, fair. I love that. Okay, so you found supply. And where's your supplier based?
In between Tuscany and
somewhere near there.
Yeah, somewhere around it. I can't remember the place.
That's fine.
But you don't want to tell everyone where your supplier is.
No, exactly. You've got to keep that a secret.
Over in Tuscany. Very good.
Milly, everyone knows now that the e-commerce space is hugely competitive and very saturated. You know, there's a lot of people selling online, especially nowadays. How do you combat this, and how do you put your head up above the rest of the market?
I'm not going to lie. I honestly thought it was going to be so easy to go on and sell products online. Right. I just thought, I'll get the shoes over, set up a website, set up a social media account, sorted. Just, they don't need to do anything else. And then you suddenly realise once all your family and friends have bought your shoes, you're like, where am I going to get all my other sales from? So it's one thing that I'm massively learning. I think you've got to have a really good key selling point, so something that makes you different to everyone else. And for me, it's the quality and the price. No one does my quality for the price that I'm selling at.
Yeah.
Which is just something that that's what I wanted to do. That was what I was driving to do. But keeping your head above the water, I mean, I am very much still learning about the social media side now. There's so much more that I could do on those accounts to push it forwards. I think you've got to love what you're selling. I think when you hear people talk about it and they're really intrigued by like what's going on, they want to know, but you've got to know everything. I think if you don't know your product, then you're going to struggle there. And then I did have one more point, which I wrote down.
I love that you've done some prep. This is legendary.
And then it's being online, you've got to, that's what my dad always says to me. He says you've got to make your customers trust your product. So because I'm a new business, I seem like I'm posting all the time, and I'm sure people are getting very annoyed with it. But if you're not there, then people don't know it's legitimate.
Yeah. So
it's really implementing and letting people know that you're there and you're not moving for a while.
So having a bit of a little trail to show that you've got some heritage, and then also getting reviews and stuff like that is always really hard, right? Now, quick one on the Dentons brand itself. I see it says it's been established since 1800 or something. Tell me a bit more about that story. Is it like a family-run thing, like before your dad, were your grandparents in shoes as well, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so we've been in shoes for generations to generations. I mean, they were making boots for the soldiers in the First World War. And in the Second World War, they changed both their factories in Northampton to provide boots to the army.
Okay, and that was called shoes or called something else?
There's a mixture of different names gone on through the years. Sure. My granddad and his twins set up a company called DB Shoes, which is still actually running in Northampton now.
Okay.
They used to do 30,000 pairs a week in their prime, coming out of Northampton. Like big numbers.
Yeah, big setup.
Yeah. And they're still going now, so they're still going strong. And it's actually there's a really interesting story of, it was one of the Denton brothers that brought over the steel toe cap from America.
Okay.
So there was a guy in America that had the patent for the steel toe caps.
Right.
And in order to get the patent for the UK, he had to play him at a game of bridge.
That's cool.
Yeah, so there's a lot interlinking in all the generations. Like obviously Dad's now in safety footwear, so that links quite nicely to what he's doing.
Yeah. And that Denton bridge to win the rights, was that a relation of yours or just a namesake?
Yeah, no, it's a relation of ours.
Oh right. I've got some bridge playing skills in the family as well. Love that.
So,
I'm interested to hear about starting a brand at such a young age. When we get this out on socials and everything else, so there are a lot of people that are really keen to start a brand, but they're just not sure where to start. Now, I dare say, as you've kind of touched upon already, it hasn't just been plain sailing. So tell me a little bit more about the obstacles you've had to overcome in your short journey.
Oh God, the obstacles, there's so many. I mean, social media is one of them, because I really don't understand it. I don't understand it half as near where I should do. Yeah. Which is something that you should definitely get your head around before sort of like making that jump, especially if it's going to be social media sort of led, which a lot of companies are now. What other obstacles? You obviously have the obstacles of like where you're going to store your stock.
Yeah.
And just
in terms
like,
of pandemic, has that caused many problems in terms of receiving stock and kind of communicating with the factories out there?
Not too badly. Yeah, I think the biggest obstacle I've had is coronavirus.
Yeah.
As awful as that is, because it like no one wants to go out and buy £150 Chelsea boot because they're not going out anywhere.
Yeah.
And then obviously with everyone's circumstances going back to work or not going back to work, it's really tough. And I think that's my biggest obstacle at the minute, is trying to get those sales where I thought it'd be really easy to get, but it's proving hard work.
Well, here's hoping when this episode gets released, obviously the hundreds of thousands that are viewing this show, you'll be a global superstar, and hopefully everyone will buy this.
Fingers crossed.
Milly, Denton are just online, is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
So in terms of like, how business models have changed for e-commerce and for people selling products from the start. I mean, go back 20 years, you probably would have opened a shop. And, it's now it's very different. Perhaps you just want to stay online. I mean, is that a business model that you're going to be following, sort of just being completely online, or do you have visions to go onto the high street? Where do you see it coming?
I mean, to go on the high street would be really cool. And if I could one day open my own Denton shop, then 100% definitely would be something I'd be looking to do. Everyone's always saying, oh, why don't you try and get in this shop or with this customer? And I just don't have the margins to do that with what I'm trying to achieve. So, yeah, for me, really, the shops are a no-go at the minute, and it's all got to be online based. I was meant to be doing a load of sort of like going out and doing like point to points, taking a stall, setting up. But obviously they all got cancelled this year, which is a bit of a shame because I had quite a few lined up.
Of course, I'm sure that's how Jules clothing came about. It was through the kind of country shows and the horse trials and stuff like that where they really built their brand. Same with Fairfax and Favour. Yeah,
exactly. So that was the aim this year, but I think I've had to postpone it. So we'll try again next year with those bits.
Yeah, I'm sure that'll be fine. And so have you got some people to help you with those? Have you got a supportive network of friends that will come and support you at the shows?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, I did talk about getting a barrel of beer, and the boys were like, yeah, we'll help. I was like, oh.
All of a sudden you're inundated. So in terms of your business, you couldn't have really picked a better time to start just before a global pandemic. Quite personal, but at the same time, I think really important for anyone listening. It's not all roses. Outside of business, what have you personally learned during the pandemic?
Nothing's as easy as it seems.
Perfect lesson.
And that no one wants to buy any shoes.
Yeah.
I think actually what it's learned me is to be patient, because I think before, if I had a couple of weeks where I probably wasn't getting as many sales, in the back of my head I'm thinking, is it worth it? I've got this whole whack of stock in the warehouse, like what's going to happen? What am I going to do with it? And I think I'm just like, I was rushing to conclusions, whereas it's actually been quite nice to sit back, have a look, maybe see what I'm doing wrong, see what I'm doing right, and just have a bit of patience to see like how it's going to proceed and go forwards.
Yeah.
Milly, we talk a lot on this show about mentorship, and and inspirations, and it seems like maybe your dad is your inspiration and possibly your mentor. Have you managed to find any help, and if so, what have you learned from someone like your dad or other people that have had experience?
Yeah, my dad's my inspiration. He's just done fantastically from when he started something from nothing, and he's now one of the biggest distributors in the UK and Ireland for safety footwear. He's done so well for himself, and that's really what, if I could achieve half of what he's achieved, then I'll be really happy with where I've come. He's been excellent in helping me. He came to Italy with me. He's there. He doesn't say a lot, but if I'm making a wrong decision, he'll be like, oh, are you sure? And you're like
a little
reevaluate. But I can't thank him and actually my mum enough for all the help they've given me, because without them 100% I wouldn't have been able to do it. And it's nice that it's being kept in the family and kept moving forwards, and I'm quite lucky with all my dad's footwear connections. I've been able to go in and I did a week in churches in Northampton, which is obviously massive because churches are one of the best out there. So to go around the factory and see how they run all their production and everything in was just insane.
That's really cool. And I'm sure Harry, your brother, gets a little shout out as well. He supported you from a modelling side, hasn't he?
Yeah. He hates it. He gets a free pair of shoes, but he hates it.
No, he's done a good job. And so, Mil, outside of the family, have you had any other support, or have you been reading many books or listening to many podcasts apart from this series, of course? Are there any other series of podcasts that you listen to?
Not really, to be honest. I think just because I start work so early, and then you sort of finish work and you go to the gym, and then I get back and I pretty much go to sleep and then start the next day.
Yeah.
So no, I haven't. And I do need to. I obviously listen to your guys' podcast, and but I do need to start listening to a bit more to see sort of what's going on, and yeah.
Sure. Yeah, there's no better way to learn, right, than through podcasts. And the trouble with reading, of course, is while it's hugely helpful, it takes so much time. Sometimes a podcast is good when you're traveling, etc. So you touched on there about you getting up early. What time do you normally have to start?
I start at 6.
Oh, absolutely not.
You get used to it after a while, but
over your journey so far, Milly, do you? I'm sure there's been many obstacles that you've had to overcome, but do you have any regrets? Do you wish there was things that you wouldn't have done or would have done, perhaps?
Yes, definitely. I think when I got my first order in, I probably went twice as big with my order as I possibly needed it to be.
Okay.
I think just because I thought it was going to be so easy to sell all these shoes, and I was like, oh, I can't be out of stock, when actually, realistically, if I'd been out of stock, then it would have been fine and people would have understood.
Yeah.
So that was probably the main one for me. And also not like testing the product and seeing what people thought about the products before they come out. Obviously, there's some which sell a lot better than others. And it's all about doing like wear testing and wear trials and taking it out and see what people think. And I think that I've messed up on that. And I regret doing that, not going out and doing it.
So, Mel, what's the most popular range at the moment?
The Chelsea boots or the loafers.
Yeah. Just
your standard brown, nothing fancy about them. They're comfy and they go with everything. So they're your best sellers. And it's sort of where I've tried to branch out into some of the different colours, perhaps doesn't work.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the styles I probably shouldn't have gone into because it's quite different from all the other styles. But I think that's just something you're going to learn as you do it. You make the mistakes and
some you'll go with, and I guess there'll be a huge success and you would expect it, and some you'll go with and convinced they're going to work out, and they unfortunately don't, but that's the beauty of it. So, Mil, final question from me is all around, what does a Denton story look like in, say, 3, 4, 5 years' time? Where are you going to take this brand, and where are we going to see it when we next have you on the show? Where are you going to be?
Well, I'd like to say it's a lot bigger than it is now. No, but I'd like to be out at sort of all those big events. People come up and they're like, oh yeah, we know Dentons. That'd be really nice. And if you're like, what do you do? Oh, I own Dentons footwear. It'd just be nice for them to be like, oh yeah, we know who you are. Yeah. But how we get there is, it's going to be tough, and it's going to be a hard road. And once I can get out and I hopefully get those stands out, and people, because it's really hard to explain the quality to people. So I think once they start seeing the product in the flesh, it might all just become a bit clearer. Because it's a lot of money to ask people to part with when they have no idea what they're going to be receiving, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then in the long run, I mean, I'd love to bring production back to the UK and in Northamptonshire. I think if I can keep it going and I can get it back and we can start making shoes here, then I'd love to.
That would be really cool. Well, Stokely, anything else from yourself?
No, just thank you. It's, your startup story has been very inspirational, so thanks.
Mel,
thank you very much for having me.
It's super proud moment for myself. There's not many of us that have left school and gone up to set up their own businesses. We're seeing it more and more, but you're certainly one of those, and I think your story is a fantastic one, and I can't wait to see where it goes. Lovely to have you on the show. For those that are listening, I hope you've drawn great inspiration from that. Mel, if people want to find out more about you or about Dentons, where do we suggest they have a look?
Have a look on the Dentons footwear website. It's all on there, all the family history, everything. So it's quite an interesting read, if I do say so myself.
Head over to Dentons footwear, buy yourself a pair of shoes. You won't be disappointed. Mel, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Thank you to those that are listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next show. Thanks again.
Thanks.
Thank you.